We are the damn champions once again. Another ICC trophy. The first nation to win all major titles. What a great win it was. What a great Monday it is. Public holiday here in Australia and World Test champions. And commiserations and welcome to my co-host Nash, and commiserations as well to all the India fans. Nash, talk to me.
Well, there's a famous saying that goes, if you win, talk less. If you lose, talk nothing. Uh, and that's what I'm going to adapt today.
I'm going to force it out of you, mate. I'm going to force it out of you, mate.
It was firstly, congratulations to you and all the Australian fans. I would say it was a convincing, not me, but everyone's.
Yes.
It's pretty evident it was a convincing victory for Australia. Not quite what I had hoped for India. I wasn't, as I said, I was pessimist from the start, but this performance wasn't what I was expecting. Pretty much no one stepped up aside from a couple of batters. The bowling let us down. The captaincy has let us down, contrary to what everyone's saying on social media. The batting always lets us down in the past few years. No one as a collective has stepped up for India. Unlike Australia, everyone contributed something right down till, Mitchell Stark in the second innings with a flurry of runs, quick runs. Cameron Green with his fielding, brilliant with his bowling as well. He was right there troubling the batters. Scott Boland, I mean, what a man. What a man. And as someone who's supporting Australia in the Ashes, I can't be excited enough for what he can do in the Ashes. And it's going to be sorry to see Hazelwood sit out in the first couple of Test matches, but I hope they go with Boland. Coming back to the World Test Championship, it's a poor performance. That's all I can say. It's a poor performance from India. As much as I would like to say Australia performed really well, I I'm going to say, and Australian fans might not like to hear this, I'm going to say that they were ably assisted by some poor bowling and some poor performance on the batting front. Some poor shots. I mean, the shots that the batters got out in the second innings were absolutely, it was just really sad and disappointing to see. I'm not even going to use any exaggerated adjectives here. It was just sad and disappointing the way they got out. Everyone. I mean, Rohit Sharma gets out playing, a sweep shot in the last 20 minutes. That's fine. But then Pujara, I mean, what was that? You spend a month and a half preparing for the only test match you're going to play in England, and that's the shot you play. You might as well play in the IPL then. And that too, even after like literally Rohit Sharma had lost his wicket.
Yeah.
The day is coming to a close. Just bat out, and I get it that you have to play your shots and punish the bad balls, but there's time and place for everything. And unfortunate, it's unfortunate to see that Pujara made that decision to go with that shot at that time, and it's just again Kohli getting out to that ball outside the off stump.
What did I
As
tell you
he
in
was,
the preview? Said you bowl two straight to Virat Kohli, you're doing it wrong. Go put it
yeah,
out there outside off stump. Let him do the work because
exactly,
he needs to feel
exactly.
bad on ball, man. It's simple as that.
Yeah, and you need, and Sunil Gavaskar said this perfectly. You're not going to win matches like this. You need to bat out the day. You need to be patient, and that was the, on final day you got to bat out 3 sessions. That's what it takes to be a champion. Even if you would have drawn the test match, it's fine. Um, as long as you don't lose it, it's fine. I mean, you don't always. There's a time to pick your battles. And there's a time when you go for the win. There's a time when you go for the kill, and there's time when you step back, hang back, and say to the opposition, "Fair play, you're bowling well. We'll just see out the time and bat." But unfortunately, that wasn't the case this time. And yeah, I mean, Travis Head and Steve Smith took the game away from India on the first day itself. As I said, supported by some really shit bowling from
To put it
everyone
to put it
involved.
to put it bluntly.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going on a bit of a rant here, but I'll hear what you have to say as well. But right from the get go,
I've got
and we
plenty,
did this.
plenty to say.
we did this before the test match as well, and I said
Mm.
it might be 50-50 whether they go with Ashwin or not. Um,
I was
and the
surprised they didn't. I was surprised
Exactly,
they
and
didn't.
especially after I saw the pitch, I think I was one of those that said, they might not go with Ashwin, they might choose to go with four fast bowlers depending on the conditions and stuff like that. But I think ultimately I've been proven wrong. Anyone has been proven wrong who says Ashwin doesn't fit. He absolutely fits in
Yeah.
the team, and
One of the things we said in the preview was India going to beat themselves with their decision making. That was the big worry because they've made questionable decisions in big games before in the past. When you look at the lead up, the weather in London in the lead up being very dry, and then the forecast for the majority of the test match is very, very dry and actually very hot later on in the test match, 30 plus degrees.
yep.
You see Nathan Lyon and Jadeja getting spin. So it's just, yeah. Um, anyway, so talking about India's record in ICC knockouts, I thought I'd take the opportunity to mention to anyone who's talked to me about the Gabba on Twitter over the last couple of years. Just want to mention India's record in the knockouts for a second since 2013. 2014 T20 World Cup, lost the final. 2015 ODI World Cup, lost the semi-final. 2017 Champions Trophy, lost the final. Yeah,
You also missed 2016 T20 World Cup semi-final.
Mr. T 2016 T20 World Cup
There's
semi-final.
plenty
Apologies.
there. There's
2019 ODI World Cup semi-final, lost. 2021 World Test Championship, lost the final. 2022 T20 World Cup, lost semi-final. And now 2023 World Test Championship, lost the final. India've got no problem reaching these major games. What the hell's going on? Why can India get to the knockouts, but completely stuff up?
I wish I had the answer. I would have been the coach.
Because forget, they've changed the coach, they've changed the captain. Yeah, what's going on?
I think it goes deeper than that, to be honest. It goes a lot deeper, especially when it comes to the red ball format. I'll stick to the red ball format for now. The fact that we've prepared the kind of pitches that we have at home, meaning the test matches end up just 3-day test matches, or more, the fast ballers are not in the game at all, or the batters, it just, as you said at the start of the India Australia series, that it just brings the opposition into closer
Yeah.
to India standards, and
Mm.
that's perfectly correct. I am all for preparing whatever kind of pitches you want to. That's fine. I'm not. As I've said all the time, but it doesn't mean that it just means that you have to prepare that much better when you go abroad, when you play in such conditions that you know that you lack the skill to play there, because India, I can't remember the last time a test match in India lasted 5 days, aside from the last India Australia test match.
Mm.
That was the only one. Um, and
But
the
I will
2016,
challenge you on that. Last World Test Championship final, India came into it. They had one in Australia.
yeah,
Your fast bowlers are excellent. You had Bumrah then. I think you were scarred this time. That's why you didn't pick Ashwin, because you picked two spinners then. But the conditions were so different in that final against New Zealand to what they were now in this final. So it just, the think tank, I think they're not thinking clearly enough when it comes to the big games. But India have got the fast bowlers, man. We talk, even sort of 2 years ago in England did very well. And yeah, I know you got a point about, producing spinning pitches at home and then going to England and having a bit of a shock, but India have done well overseas
and that's what I'm
in
saying.
recent
That's
years.
they've done well when especially during that 2016 to 19 period when they were
Yeah.
preparing. They weren't exactly flat pitches, but they assisted everyone involved in the game. They assisted the
Mm.
batters, they assisted the fast bowlers, everyone, and the
Yeah.
spinners came into play on day 3, day 4, whatever. But and that meant that our batters knew how to control the game from the start, because they played the long innings.
Yep.
Whereas now they're not playing the long innings. They go for the shots. They get bogged down when the runs don't
Mm.
come often, and that's been the problem. But when you when you talk about the management and the coach being changed, the captain being changed, firstly, we have all seen. I'm not a big advocate for Rohit Sharma as Test captain anyway. I was never.
So,
Back
so,
in
so
listen.
talk to me about his captaincy in this Test match. What are your thoughts? I know you mentioned his captaincy at the start wasn't great.
Look, I think with Rohit Sharma, what the case is, I'm not going to. I personally wasn't a big advocate for him as Test captain because he really hasn't proven anything. I would say, having 5 IPLs as a captain, to me, that says you are better suited to the T20 captaincy, which, as he proved last year, he wasn't. Winning 5 IPL trophies is completely, or winning a Nidahas trophy, against Bangladesh in Sri Lanka in the last over is completely different to winning a World Cup in Australia against a batting side like England, or a batting unit like Australia winning a Test match. It takes a different skill to bring that group together, and that's what Virat Kohli did in all those years he was captain. Firstly, he never should have been removed as the captain, but we are well past that. Um, Secondly, what Rahul Dravid said in the press conference absolutely baffled me. It confused me more than it angered me. And he said, "Oh, it will be nice to win some trophies." That's not how a coach of an elite international team should speak in press conferences. Even though he can put on the nice person, sort of the personality that he has all the time, that doesn't give exactly the confidence that the players need or the fans need
Is
when
he the
it
right
comes
man for the
to.
job?
That's a hard one. Personally, I don't think so. Um, the thing is, this Indian team, this group of youngsters or players needs someone as fierce or as bold as Ravi Shastri.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, to his fault, Ravi Shastri was on some days, too bold. But they need someone like him to, I would almost say, protect them from all the shit that goes on social media or in the media itself.
Mm, mm.
That you could think of Jose Mourinho from a footballing point of view. He never lets his players take the fall for anything. He will always take the blame, or he will always put the blame on himself, or he'll blame some random third thing, but he'll never blame his players. He'll always take the fall for his players, and he always back his players. Um, doesn't matter who's in front of him. So, and that's the kind of persona that this Indian team needs, because as much as the scrutiny is put on these Indian players in India itself, you need someone thick skinned, someone who can be bold, someone who can be always on top of things like Ravi Shastri was.
Interesting. But under Shastri, India missed out on ICC tournaments too.
And I'm not going to I'm not saying that's going to change. I'm just saying that when it comes to you know because it's a long game, isn't it? Because when it comes to like fighting with the media, fighting with the press, arguing with the external factors, you need someone bold enough so that
Mm.
the players can focus. I'm not
There is a
sitting here
lot
and
of
saying
noise. You're right.
they'll always win, but
Yeah.
it does affect in the long term.
There's a lot of noise. And sort of I did a piece during the test match that, as an Aussie and as an outsider looking in, I couldn't believe. Well, I've seen it before, but just the fan wars, like, the player
uh
wars and all that. Oh, come
don't
on,
get
you
me started.
the guys are playing. You guys are playing for the same bloody team. Separate the IPL from your national team. And yeah, it's like I'm
I've
looking
never understood
for.
that, to be honest.
Yeah, neither have I. And I'm looking for analysis from an Indian perspective on why they're falling short in big games, why they've fallen short so badly in this World Test Championship final. For me, this was such a convincing win for Australia. We let you win the game.
Yeah, yeah,
No balls, drop catches. Rahane should have been out on 17 as well as he played. He should have been out on
yep,
17. Shardel Tuckle should have been out for a duck, right?
yep.
Um, so that should have been an even bigger win for Australia. That could have been worse for India. And that's not good enough for a team of India's dominance and status in world cricket. You look at financially how dominant India are, the fan base that India have, the passion for the game. So it just keeps happening, and I want to know why. And it'd be very interesting to see how India go from here. There's an ODI World Cup at home. Quickly before I talk a little bit about Australia, how confident are you this year? Now there's an ODI World Cup at home. Now I think there's going to be pressure on India to win that, no doubt
I
about it.
I don't think they'll make it past semifinals.
Big call.
I'm not really I'm not really confident of that. Back in 2011, there
Different
was
team, wasn't
just
it?
some they
Yeah.
absolutely different team, but there was just something that was telling, like there was a voice within that, was telling us that this is the year. This is the year.
There were some strong
Um,
personalities in that group.
Yep.
I think about MS Dhoni, the calmness he provided. Yuvraj Singh was a monster in that tournament.
Yeah. And if India are to win, there's literally, I would say, two people that India need desperately to have some form and show their class. One is Shubman Gill at the top, and second, obviously, is Virat Kohli. I think those two. I'm not even counting Rohit Sharma here, but those two, I think, if they start going crazy in the center, I think India can do wonders.
If there's
But
no
ultimately,
Bumrah,
again,
which might be the
exactly, I was coming
case,
to that.
what happens?
So ultimately, if it also then falls on the bowlers and who we select and who's available. But I think to have that strong top order, I think that's the key.
Yeah, interesting. We'll see, because the home World Cup, there's going to be pressure, and there's a 10-year wait for a trophy. In terms of Australia, look, mate, we in that period we've won an ODI World Cup, a T20 World Cup, and now a World Test Championship. That gives me a lot of joy. We haven't been great the whole 10 years. There's been some times where we've been quite poor, actually. And even in this Test match, I thought the third day, I was talking to you on WhatsApp and sort of made a guest appearance on the Cricket Unfiltered, and was just really annoyed at that day because India, when they've had the foot on our throat the last 6 years, you haven't let up. So for Australia to let up a little bit on day 3 goes against the Australian way of playing Test cricket. We never let up. So that's the only blip. I mean, other than that, maybe look, Stark's bowling wasn't the best in the Test match. Hopefully he's got the rust, out of him, and he comes good in the Ashes. But I thought Scott Boland, man, there's no way he can be dropped now. There's no way he can be left out.
Absolutely,
bro, unbelievable.
And
good.
Yeah, exactly. And the only blip that you're talking about, I think there's one thing I worry about as a second, as an Australian fan during the Ashes. There's one thing I'll worry about from an Australian point of view is not. There's only ever 2 batters or 1 batter stepping up. I would love to see 3 or 4 batters coming together and sort of putting a score, because Australia are 360 for 3 at the end of, I think, second day, or they were 360 for 3, not at the end of second day, but they were 360 for 3, and they ended up with only 469.
Yes.
And someone like an Alex Carey has to start putting up hundreds at that position, and that's
well,
what
to be
Adam
fair to
Gilchrist
him.
did.
To be fair to him, I don't think it's fair to tell anyone to be what Adam Gilchrist was. That guy was
I'm just saying that once he starts going,
I thought he played brilliantly in this Test match. And you look at either side of the India tour. You look at back before the India tour, he did hit a century, didn't he, against South Africa, and he was scoring runs. This Test match, he batted beautifully. I was disappointed in the first innings.
All I'm saying, he has to start piling on hundreds when he gets to 40 and 50.
Piling on hundreds from number 7 is tough. If he does what he does in this Test match consistently, half centuries and contributions down the order, and the hundreds to come as well, great. But to pile on hundreds from 7, that's tough ask. I'm not going to expect what Carey to do what Gilchrist did, but what he did in this Test match, Alex Carey, is magnificent.
Honestly, I don't think we are expecting too much, because he has the capability to do it.
He does. If he puts if he puts the reverse sweep away, he does. And I was thinking to myself, why the hell the first innings he was playing the reverse sweep? Because the ball before, He hits it down the ground for a beautiful 6. The next ball is almost exactly the same.
Yep.
And he gets himself out. Second innings, he sort of put that away and played nice and straight, and he looked so good. And that was really pleasing to see because I've been a supporter of his, and there was some commentary before this final that he should be dropped after what happened in India, but completely different
Yep.
conditions and
And
circumstances and all that. So great to
I'll
see.
also ask you, is the biggest positive for Australia is that the quality of England spinners is not that of Ravinder Jadeja or an Ashwin or even Jack Leach is not there. So
Jack Leach is a massive loss, and I think that's a big loss for England. That's where Australia can make some inroads
yep,
against the spinner. I don't know who it's going to. I think Moeen Ali's been brought back into the squad, if
yep,
I'm not mistaken.
which
So,
is funny to me, but yeah.
Yeah, I think Australia can go after him. As good as he's been at home over the years for England, but look,
Come on, he averages 64 against Australia.
I'm talking. I said in England,
Australia,
not only against Australia. I said in England, he's had his good moments against India,
but Australia are going to take him
and
apart, is what I'm saying.
I expect Australia to take him on and be very, very proactive against him, particularly if the pitches are fast and flat, which what Stokes wants. And I mean, I'm sure we'll touch on the Ashes as well, but I have no idea what's going to happen in that series. That has the makings of a cracker.
I'm positive that Australia. I'm saying it early. I'm calling it early, but Australia will win. Is what I feel
I'm
like.
not so sure because look, Australia were excellent in this Test match for the most part, but there's a couple of things that I worry about. Is when the momentum is against us, we we do seem to struggle to bring it back.
I
And
think I'm saying,
another thing is Pat Cummins' captaincy is going to come under significant test in this series.
yeah,
He is one to let things drift, and he is one to go on the defensive extremely quickly. Now, on the fifth morning, I was worried early on because there were some easy runs to point. And India didn't play it smart. They started to play some really rash shots. And if they played it smart, they could have sort of bide their time a little bit more and pick off those singles in the occasional boundary. That's not taking anything away from Scott Boland. He bowled beautifully. But I don't want Pat Cummins to go on the defensive too quickly. That's probably one thing he does. The deep point straight away. I hate that. And Ricky Ponting was going off in commentary about that as well, and rightly so. So that's going to be a big test. How Australia deal with England's attacking approach and whether they can stop momentum and keep them quiet and be consistent enough. That's going to be the big key. But in terms of this test match, the big positive for me, of course, Travis Head. Outstanding, the player of the World Test Championship cycle, without a doubt. For me, he's won 5 man of the matches, including in the final. Steve Smith, start of a big summer, hopefully. Awesome, man. Is just fantastic. And also Scott Boland.
yeah,
Scott Boland. He's, I was really excited speaking to you in the preview about his role in England and how effective he can be in those conditions. And I told you that if he bowls the same way he did in that one test match he played in India, where he went without luck, he's going to take a bag of wickets in England. So that's what happened. Very happy.
I think he's going to have a lot of fun in England.
He can't be dropped.
I would,
can't be dropped.
Yeah, exactly. And personally, I'm saying I would like to see a 3-2 scoreline for the Ashes.
It could be if the weather is kind. It could be that.
Exactly. So yeah, rain permitting, I think we'll see a 3-2 in Australia's favor, but it's going to be close one. It's going to be really interesting, and yeah, it's going to be fun talking about it with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I don't know which way it's going to go. I literally have no idea. If you told me 18 months ago England would have a top 3 of Zach Crawley, Ben Duckett, and Ollie Pope in an Ashes Test match, I'd laugh at you and say, just give us the urn. We don't even have to go to England. Just keep the urn in Australia. But the way they're playing, they're playing with of course, a fearless attitude, England, and they're going to have a real go at Australia, and they're going to have Broad and Anderson there.
And that's what I'm thinking is Australia must have some plans chalked out already for how
you
they're
would.
going to counter
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm fascinated to see what they will be. But I want Australia to play on the front foot and be proactive and positive in this series. No overly defensive things and all that sort of stuff. So I'm fascinated to see. But yeah, this test match, we got so far in front, and then we had some rustiness there on the third day, but I'm happy I think hopefully we've shaken that off, and we go into the Ashes with that test match under our belt, switch the focus to that and do well. So great.
Yeah. All right. That was our preview of the World Test Championship, and sorry, that was our review of the World Test Championship and preview of the Ashes. Thank you all. Congratulations to Australia once again, and congratulations to you, Charbel.
Thank you, sir.
We'll be
Thank
here
you.
doing this again during the Ashes, and looking forward to a cracking summer in England, cracking Ashes series, and go Australia for the Ashes, and let's see what happens. Thank you all. Thank you to the listeners. Thank you to the people who watch on YouTube. We'll be doing this again on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube during the Ashes as well. Thank you so much. Have a good day. See ya.